We're all dealing with this new reality, of course, around COVID-19. And like a lot of you, and like our guest, I have a house full of kids that are now home all day, and we are staying home. So we're kind of, reconfigured a bit and figured out yesterday that I needed a desk in my bedroom and where I can shut the door. And I'm going to be doing my lives from now on, kind of from my home location and bringing on some guests. And I'm so excited because we're starting a brand new series today called South Shore Community Chats. And I was thrilled to get my first guest agree to come on with us. And I'd like to say hello and good morning to Mayor David Mitchell from the Town of Bridgewater. How are you, Mayor?
I am as good as can be, Jennifer. Good.
I know you've been very busy.
Yes, these are long and different days.
They are. I'm just going to check and make sure we're live. Yes, we are live. Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
While we're live, if you guys have any questions that you would like to ask, I'm not guaranteeing that we're going to be able to answer them or get to them, and some of them might be appropriate. I'm sure Mayor Mitchell, when he had some time, could message you later. But feel free to ask questions, and we can see those, I think. We're using this new platform, but so far so good, I think. So I know you're busy, Mary. You're doing a lot of communicating on your page and putting out your own little videos, which I think have been fantastic. And what I see is a lot of really positive response to the kind of tools you're using to communicate. And I guess what's your philosophy around communication? I know you're up to date on all the platforms, but at a time like this, I think it's important to kind of use these to keep everyone informed. Is that your philosophy?
Yeah, so it kind of always has been. I'm not a fan of especially governments that kind of hide. So we as a council made a conscious decision in 2016 to be more open. But certainly during this time, it's been, I think, needed now more than ever to kind of get to people so that they know that everything's going to be okay, to what's running, what's not running, and the rules. So I have a love-hate relationship with social media, and people can figure out why. But like today, in today's environment, it is probably one of the best tools that we have at our disposal to make sure that people have the information. So that's really important to me.
Good. Well, I think you're doing a great job. You're doing an amazing job. And, it's like you see across platforms, just either little to no communication or you see a lot. And I know everyone appreciates, especially at this kind of unprecedented time, they want information. And like you said, love, hate with social media. What can happen, of course, is sometimes you see a lot of misinformation. That's why I thought these chats would be a great chance to have some people on and kind of let people know what's happening either with their town or their municipality or with their business or their organization, and just kind of make sure that the information is coming from them. So I really appreciate you taking some time to come on with us. So speaking of the town, how has COVID-19, I guess, affected the operations for the town of Bridgewater and for you as mayor?
So for the operations of our town, we have a lot of staff that we've sent to work from home. So we're fortunate to be part of what is the Municipal Joint Service Board with the town of Mahone Bay and the Municipality District of Lunenburg. So we have an IT department that was already working to allow kind of remote access and the ability to work from home. So we pivoted really quickly. We sent home everyone that could be home to work from home. So the day-to-day operation of the town, while town hall is closed to the public, there are still some vital staff that can't work from home in the building. I'm in town hall right now. I'm in our boardroom, so you can see the town behind me. Quiet these days.
It looks lovely though.
It helps that the sun is shining. So those staff are working from home, but everything from building permits to applications for development, those are still happening. Just those staff are able to do it from home. We of course have staff that can't go home and work. So we have public works crews that continue to be out with all the protocols that are in place to ensure that they're safe. Police still have to do their job again with the protocols to keep them and the community safe, but all our services are running. All our services will continue to run, water, wastewater, things like that. So The operation is running just now in pockets of the community from their homes. In terms of my job, what's changed is, well, it was always kind of a 24/7 job because you don't really get time off. But I would say it's ramped up quite a bit. The number of messages and calls and emails I'm getting, I don't know how many hundreds of times more that's happening now. But I also, I feel an absolute obligation to try to get answers for everybody, because, and I've said this a couple of times, silence can be deafening, and in the crisis that we're in, silence can be crippling. And so it makes for long, busy days. But right now, this is what we need to do.
Well, I'm sure everyone appreciates that, and you're right. People are just kind of looking for that information. So, I know you have a Facebook page, and the town, I see, has linked to set up a page, it looks like, where they're sharing your videos, which is great. Let's just say, though, the average person that's living in the town of Bridgewater, if they have a question around, let's say, their water bill or their taxes or something like that, so just a general question during this time, like, what is the best way for them to do that? Should they be calling the town hall office or just emailing, or what do you recommend? Not everyone has to be messaging you directly, but for questions around, operations at this time, what's the best way?
Yeah, so on the town Facebook page, there's a list of phone numbers, there's a list of email addresses. Those will still get to the people that need to receive them. So for Public Works, there is a number for people to call, and that number is still operational. Same with police, we have the non-emergency number for questions. And people can message me, and they have, and if I don't have the answer, then I can direct them. The answer may be, you need to call this person, or you need to email that person. So far, everyone's kind of already doing that, I think. So
okay, great. So even though people are working from home, it's still operating, as normal, whatever new normal is at this point. So people still can use those numbers and emails to get a hold of someone specific in a specific department.
Yeah, I would just ask that people be patient. Because everyone is kind of new at this kind of environment.
Okay. So another question, I know it came out sort of yesterday, the municipality of the District of Lunenburg actually I think they had an online conference call meeting, like most people are doing these days, and they announced that they're delaying sending tax bills, so the days that they're due, for a 90-day period. Is that anything that the town of Bridgewater is considering at this point?
So we had our online meeting on Monday, and that was the first time that we've met since this kind of pandemic order, state of emergency, was in place. And we started the discussion on taxes for most municipalities, for I believe all but HRM. In fact, tax bills go out at the end of April and are due at the end of May. Right. My belief, and the belief of council, is that gives us 6 weeks before they go out, 10 weeks before they're due, to make sure we know every available option and solution for our residential and commercial taxpayers. For us, we don't want to say this is what we're going to do and then find out in a couple of weeks that after a conversation with the province or the federal government, there's resources A, B, and C, or options A, B, and C for our community, and then have to change again and create confusion. So for us, what we've told the public is, before the bills go out at the end of April, we will have a solution in place, temporarily, longer term, whatever it is. So there's an understanding before people get those bills, what they need to do with them. Because we're on day 3 of week 2. And we have not had a conversation with the province on what impact there will be for municipalities. Most people don't understand or don't know. We can only borrow 1.5 years worth of taxes in order to cover services. If this becomes something longer term, what does that look like after that? Our source of revenue is taxation. So if we don't collect taxes, we have to have a plan in order to keep services running. So, like I said, day 3 of week 2, we have a lot of questions that need to be answered. And so we're just starting that discussion now.
Okay, well, that's good, and good to know you guys, had that first part of preliminary discussion, I guess, this week, and your regular council meetings are continuing on Monday nights, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. And
perfect.
we're still streaming those live. It looks weird. It looks like the Brady Bunch because we're using Microsoft Teams. So you'll see counselor here and a counselor there. But
Oh
yeah,
my.
it's new, but we're absolutely streaming live so that the public can see the business we conduct.
Well, that's amazing. And if there was going to be a pandemic, thank goodness for internet. And this does give us the ability to be at home and stay safe, and but to conduct our business and to have these avenues to be able to have conversations and get the information out. So that is pretty great.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So
yeah.
another question I see a lot, I've seen that asked a few times on your page, but I see it a lot in general. And I know that a lot of the kind of regulations and things that are putting in place are coming from the province at that level, but still I know that you guys are being asked, or I assume you're being asked, I think I've seen it a few times, around employers. So employers in the town of Bridgewater, how are they able to, with this latest, and we're getting updates daily from the premier, but with this latest announcement that there shouldn't be any gatherings more than 5 people, and that everyone has to be social distancing. So just from your perspective, how does that impact employers here in the town, or what are you hearing?
Yeah. So I know there's some confusion and sorry. Employers have to always be checking with the updates, their daily updates. So they have to be checking on the provincial website. There are some employers that cannot operate with less than 5 people. And so they have to have the social distancing protocols in place. And I know that again, there was some confusion. What if my business has to operate with 10 people? I can't possibly send 5 home and work with 5. You have to be able to adhere to that 6-foot social distancing. And if you can't, those employers that are essential and can't, they need to work through Dr. Strang's office to make sure that they're on side with what his office says will then be acceptable.
Okay.
So there's no free pass for anyone. So if you can't, then you have to talk to Dr. Strang's office to see what he says you have to do.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because I think a lot of people were, there's more than we'll have to close if we can only have 5 of us working, and when it comes to essential services and businesses in the town, and they haven't, again, it's more information coming out each day, but I know a lot of people had some concerns or questions about that as well.
Especially with essential services. So I know that yesterday's press conference, the premier said coming soon will be a list of what those sectors are. So that'll be, I think that'll help a lot.
I think so too. New information. I don't know, when these press conferences start, I'll be honest, I get like this little churn in my stomach going, oh my gosh, it's been the craziest time, and so much happened so fast. But I feel like once they call the state of emergency on Sunday, the province, that I think it was a bit unnerving at first just to hear that, but then I feel like it sort of made everyone sort of understand what has to happen, or that's my hope anyway.
Yeah, and I think there is a reassurance when you see, for me at least, when I see Dr. Strang and the premier sitting up there, I get this kind of, okay, government's running, healthcare's running, right?
Yeah.
I'd be almost more worried if we never heard from them. So, but I'm with you. Like you see them every day, and at first you're like, oh my goodness, this is the new normal. But for me, there's a kind of a sense of calm of, all right, these are the bosses right now, and good to see you.
Yes, I agree. And if you're just joining us now, I just wanted to mention this is our first in our series called Social Community Chat, and we have Mayor David Mitchell on with us from the town of Bridgewater. I won't keep you too much longer, Mayor. I know you're busy. But the other area I think we needed just to hear from you on, and I think you've done a good job trying to explain it, but it would be great if you could go over it once again, around parks and trails in the town. This was another thing the province, I think, worked through a bit and each day. But can you explain what is open in the town as far as parks and trails?
Sure, and it's kind of like the tax situation where you mentioned, municipality district of Lunenburg has deferred their taxes for 90 days. I know Kings County has done something similar, but still different. So in each municipality, there is a little bit of difference. So in the town, the one that holds across the entire province is that all parks are closed. There's no mistaking that. So you can't
So all the
go.
parks are closed.
All the parks are closed.
Okay.
What remain open in the town of Bridgewater are trails and the trail system within those parks. So I'll give you an example. So the Duck Pond, Woodland Gardens, is technically a park, but 99% of us use the trail that walks around that park. That trail is open. Can you have a picnic in the park? No, you can't. Same with there's a park off of Glen Allen, just almost right across from the hospital. It's considered a park, but its primary use is the trail that's in there, brand new trail. That trail remains open.
Okay.
The off-leash park is closed. That's a park, even though there's a trail around it. So it can be a little confusing, but in the town, we have an active transportation plan, and we consider trails an extension of a sidewalk. And in most cases, they're 2 or 3 times wider, so social distancing is easier. So we're maintaining them as if they are a sidewalk, at least for now.
Okay, so what about the fields? Like, what about Kinsman Field? Like, if a family of 4 wanted to go and throw a frisbee around, like, is the Kinsman Field closed?
So there's a great question. So right now, we've considered the track kind of like a trail, but Kinsman Field itself is like a park. So unfortunately, no, we're asking people.
So we're only allowed to walk in straight lines. We're not allowed to actually get in there and do anything.
And I know I'm going to say this, and then people are going to say throwing a frisbee is exercise, but the premier did say when you're outside walking, you're outside for exercise. Your walk is for exercise. It's not, just to get to somewhere to gather, right? Yeah. So, and no driving to those trails.
Yeah, and that's the message I heard too. Like, walk in your community. If you have to drive to walk, don't do it. Like, walk around your neighborhood, walk. So if you live near a trail, you can walk on that trail, but don't drive to them. And, I think that made it a little bit clearer too and helpful for the people who live close to some of those areas.
Yeah. I did receive a question yesterday, and I honestly haven't been able to answer this individual because I don't know what the answer is. And that is they do live out of town. They do live on a road, one of the 80-kilometer-an-hour zone roads. They don't have a large property to walk along. And they can't walk along the road because there's no shoulder. And I don't know the answer in terms of can I go to a trail and walk, because the premier did say do not drive.
Yeah.
But so I am trying to find some clarity on the answer for those people who don't have access to a trail directly, how they get there. So hang tight for that one.
Okay, I think the answer I heard was walk around your house. I think it was just, and again, there's probably some clarity needed, and they're figuring it out day by day too. But, we saw last weekend, and as the weather continues to hopefully get nicer, I think everyone would take that as I can just drive here then, and then it ends up with a big congestion of people. So anyway,
we saw that last weekend at the beach.
Yeah, and then there's traffic situations I've heard too. Like, it's the traffic that also becomes a major issue, parking and traffic. So, for a lot of us here and in the town, there are sidewalks mostly in the town. And if you live outside, there's generally some space. And I think most people are sort of used to people walking on the side of the road, at least where I live. So I just wanted to ask on a personal note, Mayor Mitchell, I know you're like me and you've got a house full of kids and teenagers now and young adults at home. How are you coping with the kids at home? And do you have any advice for parents who are sort of all of a sudden have a lot of teens home, who have a lot of restrictions on them as far as socializing? And it is hard for them, at least it's hard for mine. So how are you doing with that as far as your family's perspective?
I will say the state of emergency actually helped have that conversation. It was difficult before. We were all young once and felt invincible. So it was hard to say, you can't go out and hang out at your friend's house. So it is easier now to have that conversation because, the state of emergency clearly says you can't. I think it's important for people to disconnect, to have a time where everyone in the house is turning off their devices, put them in airplane mode. Kids still need to go outside. If you can and you have pets and they go for a walk, then, if the kids can walk them, get them to walk them. You can still go for a bike ride around the block. That is the exercise outside that Dr. Strang says we need to do, not for just our physical health, but our mental health. We've got to get our kids outside. We've got to get them off the devices when we can. They cannot be streaming Netflix 18 hours a day, then going to sleep and then going back on. That's not going to help. We've got a week and a half left of no school, and it is expected that that is going to continue.
Mm.
But what's going to continue is not a vacation.
Yeah.
The expectation is that there will have to be a routine in place for kids to go back to some kind of e-learning, and parents can do that too. But the time for board games is now, and the time to get out on your deck if you have one, or get out in your yard, rake
Yeah.
the leaves you didn't rake in the fall. That's
Yeah.
me.
I did some of that last weekend. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I'm grateful that some of these countries that this where they were in the middle of it was in the winter. And so
Yeah.
getting out was difficult, and especially those who may be immune compromised and the weather wasn't suitable. So just get outside when you can as a family. Get the devices turned off. I said yesterday in my posts, let's start with 15 minutes, right? That's not a lot to ask. It's not
Oh
impossible. I
my
know for
goodness,
some,
no.
especially for my boys, they might say 15 minutes is impossible, but it's not
Yeah.
impossible. And
No.
then on Saturday, I'm going to see if we can go to an hour, and then
Yeah.
let's keep going until we have a couple hours each day where as a family we can just say, okay, now we're going out. But
Yeah.
I do have to say, parents, you're doing an awesome job. They're this was not in the what to expect when you're expecting handbook. So pandemic was not a chapter.
No, I don't
So
remember that chapter.
no. So we're kind of writing it ourselves. But
Yeah.
parents are doing an awesome job. You're all doing an awesome job.
Yeah, I think too, there's so much opportunity. Like you said, until something comes out from the province around what is going to happen with schools, I know they are working. It's my understanding around their focus right now is on the grade 12, so their graduation
Mhm.
uh, credits are met. But my kids are spending a lot more time in the kitchen on some artwork, and puzzles and things like that, and getting outside. And my youngest is 16, and she recognizes herself how much better she feels when she is off her device for an extended period, and then getting fresh air and being outside. She knows how much better she feels too. And even with the device part, for her, she's been doing a little bit of yoga online, and she said too that really helps her too. So there's lots of
Mm.
options, but I think you're 100% right. And I do agree the state of emergency, I think, helped a lot of parents kind of drive it home that no, now you have to stay home. And they can socialize online like everybody, but it's hard for teenagers, hard for little kids too. But just one day at a time. And I think everyone, we're all going to learn a lot from this, I think.
Yeah.
So, anything else, Mayor Mitchell, before I let you go, as far as anything you feel like you want to make sure the public understands around COVID-19 and what's happening?
So I'll just say that the rules are in place and need to be followed. I think that's made abundantly clear now. State of emergency, like I said, really helps. Those don't happen often, so when they do, we have to step up and pay attention. I just want to continue to reassure people, like the Canadian supply chain is intact. Yes, things
Mhm.
are taking longer, and I know people are ordering on Amazon and they're upset that it says their delivery delay, and what do I pay for Prime if I can't get it in 2 days? Like, we all need to kind of pump the brakes on that, right? Our grocery stores are being restocked daily. I can look out the window and I can see tractor trailers at the superstore
Mhm.
right now from where I'm
Yeah.
at. So I talked to the grocery store owners and managers. They're being restocked. There's no need to run out and take every can of soup off the shelf. They will be there, and they will continue to be there as time goes on. The Prime Minister putting money, $5 billion for farmers, is going to ensure
Mhm.
that we have fresh produce and meat going forward. So
Mhm.
we've done really well in Lunenburg County, I think, with the not panic buying. There was a time where I know toilet paper was like gold. Um, and so the limits that we're seeing in grocery stores here are from other provinces where they're not getting that yet. That message isn't coming through, and I will whether you are on side with the premier or not. Most days, I will say that the premier has stepped up and really shown incredible leadership and confidence in getting people to understand these are the rules, but also to lead us through that. So when he says there's no need to panic buy, and I say there's no need to panic buy, and other leaders are saying there's no need to panic buy, it's not smoke and mirrors. There
Mhm.
is no need to panic buy. And everyone, just, you're doing great. We're going to get through this,
We
right?
are.
Lunenburg County, I don't know where else I'd rather live than Lunenburg County right now.
I agree. It's
We
pretty
have
sweet.
the people, the resources, the fresh air.
Yeah.
This is the place to be. And in the province, which is really doing a fantastic job of managing the increasing number of cases. So, hats off to everyone who's in a position of leadership who's getting us there, and to all the people who are doing their part. So I just, a tip of the hat to everyone in Lunenburg County for stepping up.
I just wanted to comment on a couple things you said there. The first one was about Amazon, and I think if anything, my hope is that this highlights how much we as a community need to be supporting our local economy. And I know so many stores and retail operations, besides grocery stores, have really altered, doing parking lot pickups or calling and even delivering. So, my hope is that as well, people would really look at their local options. This is an incredibly hard time for a lot of our retail establishments, and don't forget to check local first. And my preference would be always checking local before you quick look to Amazon. And we just had a question too, Tammy said, should we feel guilty going to the grocery store or a drive-through restaurant? With all the stay-home messages, people still do need to get out. What do you think about that?
So you should absolutely not feel guilty going to the grocery store. I will say, now is the time for needs, not wants.
Yeah.
So what we should be avoiding are going to the grocery store every day.
Yeah.
You need to go to the grocery store. Stick with your needs, not your wants. The drive-throughs are open, and for some, it's their only viable option. If you're coming off shift at 1 a.m., grocery stores are not open. If you're exhausted and you haven't had time, I've heard of a couple of stories, truckers who are gone all week. They're gone Monday to Friday. They come home. There's no food in the fridge for them. So for them, a drive-through or a restaurant that's delivering is their only source of food, really. And back to your point, Jennifer, you're 100% right. So during this, crisis, all our local merchants that have been able to pivot and adapt to delivery, or I saw one today, I think it was Gauze, you can call them and then drive to the parking lot and call them again, and they'll come out and put the items in your car for you. You know what? That's what local merchants can do. That national conglomerates that are stuck in the West Coast in a giant warehouse, they can't do that. They can't adapt. So supporting local, and it's vital now. And we're going to get through this. And at the end of this, I hope there's that realization that without local businesses, our community will not look the same. We need to support them now. And when this is done, we all need to just have a little bit of an Amazon break and continue to shop locally and ramp that up.
That's right. And I think my hope is that, on the other side, that people will see that realization that that's who's been then there for them during this are these local retailers and restaurants offering delivery, cafes, coffee shops. It's been pretty incredible under really stressful, trying times to see how many have stepped up and quickly been able to make transitions to still be there for the community. So that is my sincere hope, is that when we're through all this, that people look at this in a different way and kind of recognize how lucky we are to have these people here. Okay, I'm not going to start crying or anything. That's bad.
I saw a great post the other day, and it was spot on, and it basically said, remember that local business that supported your charity or your sports team or your kids' trip? Now it's time to return that favor and support them, and that's 100% true.
Exactly. Well, David, I want to thank you so much. And I know not everyone recognizes this, but the mayor also has a full-time job. And, being the mayor is a full-time job and more, but he also has a regular full-time job. Excuse me. So I know you've been incredibly busy during this time. And I just want to thank you so much for coming on and for all the work you're doing on behalf of the residents of the town of Bridgewater. And keep doing what you're doing. I think you're doing an amazing job.
Thanks. You too, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. See you, David.
Bye.